Good morning, Blue Demons. Happy Monday. Welcome to our morning session for Get to Know DePaul. Today I'm joined by Dr. Gregory Moorhead to talk a little bit about the Center for Students with Disabilities. But before we dive in, as a reminder, you have the opportunity to check into this stream and any of our streams for the entire series to win one of our stainless steel Lincoln Park map water bottles. So all you have to do is scan the code or click the link in the comments for that chance to check in. Again, we'll be picking a winner from each one of our streams. So you can check in for all 28 of them. So you can, again, have that chance to win. You can check in now if you're watching live or anytime before Friday, September 11th as well to get registered. But we will go ahead and get started. Gregory, thanks so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
I'm happy to be here. Happy Labor Day.
Yeah, happy Labor Day. My Discover Chicago class, and this is just a side note, one of the things that my Discover Chicago class talks about is the labor movement and its roots in the city of Chicago. And for those of you that might be watching, and if you didn't know, the labor movement is heavily tied to the Haymarket Square.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And it has it's really fascinating. You should definitely take some time, look into it a little bit. But it's, again, heavily rooted in the city of Chicago. So I spent some time reflecting on that this morning as I was driving in. Yeah. But anyway, Greg, as we get started here, for those of you that might be new to the stream, Get to Know DePaul is a deep dive series that we're doing to help students get to know about programs and services available to them at the university. So today we're talking about Center for Students with Disabilities. So as we get started here, Gregory, how about you tell us a little bit about who you are, how long you've been at DePaul, and why you decided to come work here in the first place?
Yes, so happy to talk about the Center for Students with Disabilities, my favorite topic, as you might imagine, here at DePaul University. I've been at DePaul University now just a little over 4 years. In fact, this past August was my 4th anniversary here at DePaul University. I'm the director for the Center for the Students with Disabilities, and I came to DePaul from the University of Chicago, where I did the same work for about 5 years. And prior to going to the University of Chicago, I did the same work as the director of the Office for Students with Disabilities at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I was there for just a little under 9 years. So really happy to be here at DePaul. I think that doing this kind of work at a university, where you've got the Vincentian mission, really provides a much richer context, for doing this kind of work. Obviously, all schools are charged with ensuring that students with disabilities can participate in all the activities of the university. But when you take that charge and you kind of couch that in the Vincentian mission, I think it really makes it all the richer. And so really happy to be here at DePaul doing this work. We serve about 1,200 students total each academic year. Those numbers have ticked up fairly significantly over the past 5 to 6 years, and I don't think that DePaul is unique in that regard. And we serve all students through our office. Any student who has any kind of documented disability, they should come to our office. They should contact our office to see how we can support them. Even a student who has a temporary condition, we would like to see how we might be able to support those students as well. Even if you're an undergraduate student or graduate student or someone just taking a class at the university, if you are a student at the university, or if you are participating in any activities at the university and you are a student and you have some access concerns, then you want to contact our office to see how we can support you.
Great. That's really helpful to know. Greg, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit further about how CSD goes about supporting students. What does that mean? What does accommodations mean for students? Is it help with testing? Is it accommodations in classes? What does that look like for students, or is it truly individually based?
That's a really good question, Courtney. It is very much individually based. So students start off coming to our office, introducing their documentation to kind of help us to understand their functional limitations. So in that regard, you can imagine that every student's case has got to look a little bit different. But most of the students that we serve, they're looking for accommodations in the academic setting. So that's most of what we do. And so a lot of times those students, based upon the nature of their disability, they may need accommodations like extra time for exams. They may need a reduced distraction testing location for their exams. They may need note-taking assistance. Some students may need sign language interpreting services. Other students may need closed captioning services. It really depends on the nature of the disability. But I want to hit the pause button there, because a lot of times when people think about disability services, a lot of times they get locked into the notion of what happens in the classroom and in the laboratory. I like to say that we are responsible for ensuring that students can fully participate in the life of the university. So that includes everything about the university, everything that happens outside of the classroom. So if students want to participate in certain events and there are barriers, they want to be certain that they contact our office so we can help them to fully participate in those activities. And a lot of times, Courtney, we're working with offices like yours and a lot of partners around the university to ensure that those barriers are at least reduced, if not eradicated altogether.
Yeah, I think that's a really spectacular point because, I think a lot of folks just assume it is just to help with this one part of their collegiate experience. It's, just to help students who are registered with the office get through tests. And it's not just that, it's so much more.
Yes.
It really is. And I know you and I have worked together for accommodations for a few events in the past, whether
Right.
it be I think we've had some sign language interpreters at events and, just some dealing with some accessibility issues, which in turn have made all of our programs better, right? Like when
Absolutely.
we remove those barriers, that's what it's all about here.
Yeah. And the other piece too, Courtney, I forgot to talk about, we do a lot with trying to help students to be able to fully participate and enjoy their living quarters on campus. So students are going to reside on campus and they need special accommodations and housing. We work really closely with housing services. We work closely with residential education, Rod Waters' office in that regards. There are students now, we're seeing more students come to campus who have special dietary needs and dietary restrictions. So we work closely with dining services to ensure that those students have the kind of nutrition that they need to be able to live comfortably and be able to have a healthy diet while residing on campus.
Yeah, that's really helpful to know. So obviously there's the first part of engaging with your office is getting registered, right? Connecting, reaching out.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I know that there's a few different opportunities for involvement that the Center for Students with Disabilities manages as well. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
So yes, there's a new organization, student organization. I'm going to put on my glasses now because I'm going to cheat. I'm going to look at the monitor right here in front of me. It's called Delta Alpha Pi. It's the International Honor Society. It started about 2 years ago. And this is a brand new honor society that's it's the 148th chapter here at DePaul University. So we're really happy to have the 148th chapter here at our school. Students can participate in this chapter if they have a documented disability with our office, and if they demonstrate an interest in disability issues. And then secondarily, they need to have completed a minimum of 24 credit hours. They have to have earned an overall quality grade point average of 3.10. And for graduate students, it's also open to graduate students. They must have completed a minimum of 18 credit hours and have an overall GPA of 3.30. So this is a really good opportunity, I think, this group for students to be able to engage in an organization that's specifically designed for students with disabilities. But more importantly than that, I think it gives students the opportunity to network. It gives students an opportunity to develop leadership skills. And especially now, it gives students the opportunity to socialize with other students who may have common interests. So we're really hoping that this organization really gets its legs during this upcoming academic year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And one of the things we've been talking about a lot throughout this entire series is finding your community, finding your place and connecting with people, because that's one of the things that I think really makes DePaul special and unique. We're not herding you through this experience like sheep. We want you to find that specialized community of people that you can connect with. And the Center for Students with Disabilities facilitates a couple different experiences that are pertinent to that. So I think Delta Alpha Pi is one of those great ones that students are starting to engage with more and more to feel that sense of connection with the university.
And there's one more, Courtney, you reminded me of. It's called the Student Success Group. This is a group that also started, I'm going to say, Courtney, probably about 2.5 years ago. It's a group that's designed to support students on the spectrum. And the whole idea is to help students to develop those social skills that are so critical to their success on a college campus like DePaul's. And it's intentionally a very small group. It's only about 5 to 7 students who participate. They meet once a week, and it's under the leadership of one of our clinicians who is a licensed psychiatrist, Dr. Susan Nash. And basically, it's been a fairly successful group so far. We don't have a lot of data that we've collected on the group, but we do have a lot of anecdotal information about the success of the group, and the students who participated have been very much satisfied with their experiences. We've seen them be able to develop the kinds of social skills, even interacting with staff in our office, even with interacting with their faculty at the university. We've seen growth in that regard, and their level of comfort just interacting on a very social level coming into the office, talking with staff. We've seen the kind of growth that you really want to see. And so if there are students who are interested in this group, once again, students do need to be enrolled with our office, but they should certainly talk with myself and talk with anyone on our staff about the possibility of joining the Student Success Group.
That's great. So Greg, I think that leads me into my next question here a little bit. So obviously we know that campus and interactions with all offices are going to look a little bit different here this fall. So how can students expect to interact with the Center for Students with Disabilities?
So I'm so happy that we're talking about this today, because I get a lot of questions all the time, even faculty members. I had a faculty member, Courtney, just last week send me an email saying, I called your office and your office is closed. And I said, no, you didn't listen to the entire email. It says that our physical campus office is closed, but we are available. So we are working from home. Students can reach us. We have a virtual office. And Courtney, I think that you have access to that link. If not, I can certainly provide you with access to our virtual office link. Any student, any faculty member, any staff member, anyone who is a part of the DePaul community or anyone outside of the DePaul community can connect with our office virtually Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can go to that link and you can actually see and actually talk with a staff member. It's wonderful. And obviously, we got the other opportunities for students and other people to be able to contact our office. We've got our website address and we've got our email address, which is simply csd@depaul.edu. And then we've got our phone numbers. And again, everyone's working remotely from home. However, when you call those office phone numbers, whether it's the Lincoln Park office phone or the Loop campus phone, when you call those phone numbers, someone on our staff will answer that call. Now, if you call those numbers and you get a voicemail, this is something that you have to be mindful of. Leave a voicemail message, a short message, indicating your name, a phone number where you can be reached, and a staff member will contact you as soon as possible. Because even now, we're seeing a lot of traffic in our office with students coming back to campus and a lot of students wanting their accommodations for the first time. So what that means is that there may be times that you may call our office and a staff member may not necessarily be able to take your call right then and there because they're working with another student. That's why it's so important for you to leave a message. So I implore people, if you call and you get the outgoing voicemail message, please leave a message so we can contact you as soon as possible. But you really should understand that all of the support that students typically would receive if we were on campus, we're still providing that same support. So there have been no subtractions. There's been no accommodations that are not being provided, except for one that I'll talk about in just a second, that we haven't been providing all along. So all the support that students have become accustomed to receiving through the CSD, we will continue to provide that support.
That's great. You mentioned one that you're not able to do. What's that one? Just purely out of curiosity at this point.
So, Courtney, that one would be exam accommodation. So that's probably the most common accommodation that we see in our office, meaning that students get extra time for exams. A lot of students may get 50% additional time. Some students may get 100% additional time. And then some students may have a reduced distraction testing location. Well, if all your exams are online this quarter, then you're probably not going to be coming to our office to take your exams. Typically, what would happen is that students who have those exam accommodations will come to either the Loop campus office, if it's a Loop-based class, or they would go to the Lincoln Park office if it's a Lincoln Park-based class. But since we're all doing this online, what's going to happen is that students will have to just simply send an email to their professors at the beginning of the term, telling them that they are enrolled with the CSD. That's all they need to do. And then professors can go to their roster and they can navigate to our database, and they will actually be able to see the accommodations that students have that are pertinent to the classroom. And so professors will be able to see that students got 50% additional time for exams. And then what professors will need to do, they will need to adjust the timer on the exam so that students who get the extra time will have the extra time. Now, where it gets to be a little bit more difficult for us is that there may be students who need a reduced distraction testing location. And I understand, and I want to be sensitive to the fact that there may be students whose living situations may not necessarily lend themselves to the most distraction free, or I should say reduced distraction testing locations. And so unfortunately, because students can't come to our office this fall, we're encouraging students to see if there are other opportunities for them to find a reduced distraction testing location. Maybe it's the local library, maybe it's a local coffee shop. I know those are not the ideal situations, but we are in the midst of a pandemic, and so things are going to look a little bit different now than they typically would. So that's the one accommodation that's a little bit more difficult for us to be able to implement, is the reduced distraction testing location. For a lot of students, it hasn't been a problem. They have a quiet space at home where they can take their exams, but I am sensitive to the fact that that's not the case for all of our students. And so we want to work with them, do some troubleshooting, do some exploration with those students to see if we can help them to find a location that's quiet for them to take their exams.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I think that that's a great way that, you know, students can contact and connect with your office to have a conversation about that, you know, to get suggestions about, you know, if you don't have this environment, let's talk through what could possibly work. And I think that's another great reason to connect with CSD is, you know, as we've said throughout this entire series, you're not alone in this, right? The DePaul staff are here to help and assist. And yes, you know, the physical office isn't going to be open right now, but there's still people that you can call and talk through. Like, okay, so, you know, I'll even use myself as an example. If I were to register with CSD, the house that I live in when I go with my family is not an ideal testing location. My mom collects clocks, and there are a lot of them make a ton of noise, but I could call CSD and, you know, you all could talk through different solutions, different opportunities for me of different ways I could do it. Maybe I go outside, you know, maybe I go to our local library that has picnic tables outside and I utilize that as a testing location. You know, there's lots of different options, and CSD is there to help you talk through some of those too.
Courtney, let me just add also that the process for getting accommodations to our office, that can be a lengthy process. So I really want to kind of emphasize to students that if you even think that you're going to need accommodations, you want to start the process now. Because even if you get all the documentation to our office, let's say tomorrow, because of the demand, it can take up to 2 weeks in order to review your documentation and then have an enrollment meeting with you where we discuss your accommodations with you, because we engage students in an interactive process. So we don't just sit in a cubicle and decide what accommodations students are going to have. We do review the documentation to have some knowledge about what kinds of accommodations will be appropriate, but it's very important for us to be able to sit down with the student and have that exchange with the student about what kinds of accommodations are going to be appropriate. Now, here's where the process can be kind of prolonged. A lot of times students may come to us and they don't already have the documentation that they need. And so students may not necessarily know that until they start the process. That's why I always encourage students, you know, start the process early. Even if you feel like, you know what, I had extra time for exams in high school, I don't really think I'm going to need them now. Go ahead and make sure you get the accommodation in place now. And guess what? Accommodations are just like a credit card. You don't need to use them unless you really need to. So you're not required to use the accommodation for an upcoming exam if you haven't been approved for that exam. But make sure that you get the accommodations in place so that when you need them, you have access to them, because the process can be sometimes rather lengthy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. And, you know, we got a shout out from one of our viewers here, just saying how great it is to see how active and supportive all staff is. And, you know, certainly the case for our staff and our Center for Students with Disabilities. So I'd encourage you again to reach out if you need any help with anything, just want to talk through options. It's a great office to go to get a lot of support for your needs throughout your academic and co-curricular career here at DePaul. So, you know, for any of our viewers, if anybody has any questions, again, I'd encourage you to put them in the comments box. We can ask them live here in the session. But Greg, as we head towards the tail end of the interview here, curious if you have any advice for students heading into this fall quarter, either in terms of being a general DePaul student or particularly in interacting with the Center for Students with Disabilities.
Two things come to mind, Courtney. I'll try to be brief, which is a challenge for me. There are a lot of great services here at the university. The difference between the university and high school is that everything may not be packaged neatly in one location, but you have tremendous services throughout the university. If you don't know where to go, just go to any office. Anyone is happy to help you out. You know, there's no such thing as someone who's unwilling to help you at DePaul. We're all happy to serve you and to support you. The other thing too, for me to say is that inclusion and providing a supportive environment for people with disabilities is everyone's business. It can't just be the Center for Students with Disabilities. We have a campus of over 22,000 students, and we got buildings at the Lincoln Park campus. We got buildings in a very dense downtown area. So I always say to students, and I say to everyone at the university, if you see something, say something. So what does that mean? If you see accessibility issues, bring it to someone's attention, even if it's just our office. So for instance, if you see an automatic door that's not working, bring it to someone's attention so that that can be fixed, because people who have mobility issues are really relying on those automatic doors. If you see snow piled up in an accessible parking space, make sure that you bring that to someone's attention, because someone is actually going to need to park in that space. If you see an accessible ramp leading up to a building that's ice covered in the wintertime, or you see a puddle of water at the beginning of the ramp, make sure that you report that to someone so we can be certain that all members of our university can be included in all the activities and feel welcomed on our campus. So I always say that accessibility is everyone's business.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's more critical than ever, especially as we're living through a pandemic here, because there are less people around to, hold doors or do other things. So the critical nature of those, the push buttons for the automatic doors and for ramps to be safe and is more critical than ever before, really, so that, folks that do have to be in a space by themselves, so that they do have the ability to interact with that element or physical location in the best way possible. So that's really great advice. And it's such a small thing that we can do. There's info desks in all of our buildings that are going to be open. You can just stop by and mention it. I've done it many times, and you'll be shocked how many times they just say like, "Oh, we didn't know," and they'll fix it within the half hour or an hour. They just need to know, right? So I think it's really helpful advice, and it's one of those small ways that we can take care, live that take care DePaul mission. We say, take care of yourself, take care of each other, so that we can take care of DePaul, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a very small way that we can ensure that we're taking care of our community. Yeah.
That's it, Courtney.
Yeah. Well, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really, really appreciate it. For those of you who may have missed it at the start of the stream, you can check into today's stream by scanning the QR code pictured here, or by clicking the link that's in the comments. Again, you can check in anytime between now and September 11th, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recorded video. Get to Know DePaul is part of our Welcome Week series. So between August 26th and September 11th, we have over 165 offerings. Wow. So you can see the full listing of those at welcomeweek.depaul.edu, including the full Get to Know DePaul schedule as well, if there's other offices or departments or services that you want to get to know about. So our next Get to Know DePaul session is going to be centered on the Loop campus. So this afternoon, we'll be talking with some staff from Adult Veteran and Commuter Student Affairs to just get to know the Loop a little bit more. So we'd encourage you to check it out. Again, we'll be streaming live at 4 o'clock from Student Involvement and ResEd's Facebook pages. But until then, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. But until then, enjoy the day, and we will see you soon, Blue Demons. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.